Hi, Belize.
Hi, Sam.
What are we watching this week?
We are watching Dear John.
Um, have you ever seen this movie before?
No, this was my first time watching this.
What do you think?
Um, you felt when you were like, so tell us why you picked I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, I feel like that's how I feel, where I'm like, so, like, explain to me why you picked this movie.
I'll explain why I picked it. I forgot about the movie. I literally texted Belize last night, everyone, before we got to the Zoom. I texted her because, we go back and forth picking the movies. She picks one, I pick one, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, this was my pick. And I remember thinking it was sad as a child. I remember it affecting me. And then I was like, why did this do so badly in the box office? Like, I'm so confused as to why I did so poorly in the box office. And I text Belize last night and I just go, yo, do you like this movie? Like, just like what came out to you? What are your thoughts? What are your initial, is this gonna be a roast?
That was not fully, but like
It's not, it's not.
that was definitely my second clue, because my first clue was I asked my roommate, and he's read the book and he says the book ends differently. And I asked him if he wanted to rewatch the movie, and he was like, absolutely not. And I was like, that's a good clue that this is not.
Can I just go in real quick? I'm so happy that we released A Walk to Remember before this movie and The Notebook before this movie, because I don't think it was my intention, but I think this movie is trying so hard to be The Notebook mixed with A Walk to Remember, but set during 9/11. Like, there's this part, like, when Belize, during the Walk to Remember conversation, Belize said, you were talking about Jamie Sullivan, and you were saying how, like, Jamie Sullivan is basically a manic pixie dream girl. It's just that she's, like, perfect. There's literally a part in this movie where they're walking together, and he's like, you don't drink, you don't smoke. And she's like, no, I do. I cuss. And he was like, do it. And she goes, no. And I'm like, I hate both of you so much. I want a tractor to come by and just, like, you holier than thou pieces of shit. Like,
Oh my god, I gotta turn up the volume to hear you say this. I'm like, yes. Yeah, let's talk about that scene. That scene was the most on the nose way to point out how perfect she is. I was like, okay, so we're just good. Not that he's not kind of perfect for the most part, the way they make him seem. They don't make it seem like it's a problem that he has anger issues and some sort of past where whatever happened in his past, there are people in the town that are like warning him not to act up. And we just don't acknowledge it, and we're not concerned. But that whole scene, also on top of it just being, yeah, really annoying that she's this perfect girl, whatever, and oh my god, she curses in her head, the audacity.
the audacity.
But I did not like that one of the observations was that she doesn't sleep around.
Thank you.
I was like, this is not like he literally says, I don't think, and she's like, oh no, like net or something like that, where it's like, so it's like, so you both slut shamed together. How adorable.
They were basically saying that she's like this idolized human being for being everything that any other human being would do. Like, what, it's not bad. You know what I'm trying to say, to do all these things. It felt so bland. I just kind of was like, they made her just like this, like, object of affection. Like, he even says at one point, she's like, she's like, oh, he thinks I'm his type, but he just doesn't know yet. But I'm not. He just doesn't know yet. And Channing Tatum is like, I think you're everyone's type. I'm like, because she's bland as hell.
There's no scene where we talk about what he likes about her, in terms of, like, it's not what he likes about her isn't you're caring, you're this, you're that. It's you don't do this, you don't do that, you don't, like, it's so you just notice that she doesn't, like, what, sin, I guess, like, but I'm like, but what do you actually know about this personality of this person, because you're not listing anything right now, because
Yeah.
she does have, like, other traits. She is bland, But like the fact that that's like, you know, they don't talk about those things. It's just great that you don't do any of these. Like,
And what's funny is that I like, okay, the things that would make you fall in love with her, other than the fact that she's just like stupidly beautiful. Like, she goes to school, she's educated, she's a good family oriented person, she's really good with children, especially children with special needs. And her desire in life is just to help people with special needs. And she went out of her way to spend time with his father, even though he wasn't even in the picture anymore. Because then at the end, when they see each other again, he goes, "So you're drinking now?" And she goes, "Just 2 glasses of wine at dinner." I'm like, are you fucking, none of you would ever be with a Latina before. Like, if this is what's bothering you. Like, oh my gosh.
It's so sad that that's how little he knows her. So the only thing that he can comment on having changed about her is that she's changed because she's no longer drinking. He can't comment on other ways she's changed because he doesn't really know her that well. They have been, that's one of my notes. They have been dating for 2 weeks. When they point that out, she's like, "I can't believe in just 2 weeks I've fallen in love with you." I was like sitting there and I was like, they meet, they fall in love really fast, and then they get torn apart and spend the rest of their time longing for each other. And it's like, that's not really love because you don't really know each other and we don't really know if it's going to end up well.
I'm so happy you mentioned the 2 week thing, because all I could think to myself the whole movie is like, oh, right. I don't care about them because I don't know them, and them falling in love was during a montage. It was all just a montage. At least in the Notebook, there's like scenes and events.
And I think that's why when you ask me like what I think overall, I think that's the issue, is there's so much in the middle of we just see him at the army kind of thing.
We didn't see them together ever. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm like, wow, I kind of wish I read the source material. We didn't really see them together. We saw their letters, and even their letters were just like, "I love you, I miss you." And then out of nowhere, she's like, "I can't be with you again." And I understood her reasoning, but like, if she was gonna marry the guy because she wanted to take care of the son when he died, why did she have to break up with him? I don't understand why she couldn't just be like, "I will marry you so that legally I will take your son when you pass away." Because that's the whole reason they got married. That's what she kept saying at the end. She was like, "He was sick and he needed me." It doesn't mean he needs you to like be in love with him and fuck him. You know, like, if you technically love John, like, I just didn't understand this reasoning. And then Tim, I have a whole issue with Tim too, because how old is Tim? Like, if he's known her whole life, and the child is like a teenager by the time we see them again, I was just like, is no one going to talk about the inappropriate nature of this relationship right now? Like,
yeah, I really agree that that character is, and I'm not gonna lie to you, as soon as I saw him on screen, because I was like, when we met the first threat or whatever, which I thought that guy was funny, where he's like, I was going for the purse, I didn't jump in, but I was like, just stop. I never thought that that guy was the threat. As soon as we met Tim right after him, I was like, this is gonna be the one. I was like, this is the problem, because this guy will be around or something will happen, but this guy who has a child already is gonna be the issue. So strange to me that we just kind of like gloss over and we don't see any scenes with them. I don't know what the sense of their relationship was, because I don't think that, oh, it was a business deal and they got married on paper. You know what I mean? If that's it, then I agree with you that she should, but I have a feeling that like he kind of took advantage of her empatheticness, that she was caring for him and actually married him and like maybe consummated the marriage. Like, I don't know.
I feel like what it is that we're both desiring is we want to see a bit more of the seduction. You know, like we want to see like just a bit more of like a connection between the two of them, more than just like, I love his kid, I love his son.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I think it's just like this idea, the only way we understand it is just, hey, she likes to care for people who need help.
I agree, because she literally says to him, "He was sick and he needed me." And I'm just like, then that also is her big flaw. That's her flaw. She's so obsessed with being needed that I don't think she's comfortable with just existing with herself.
There are a couple of flaws. I think that's one. I think it was kind of weird to me that she was like pushing to meet his family right away, like on the first date. I don't know. I understand wanting to know someone's world. I think that's really sweet. But I was like, this is a lot for one day that you're suddenly like doing. And then the fact that like on the same date, she kind of tells him after meeting a dad that like you shouldn't be so hard on him. Maybe don't tell someone how they should and shouldn't interact with a family member when you know nothing about that relationship. That like really bothered me that she was intruding in that way.
Very holier than thou. It was like a lack of empathy, almost like it was a lack of emotional intelligence in that moment. You know what I mean? And I think that just proved her youth, because I think that someone a bit older, more mature would not have done that. And I think after that, she'll never do it again. But I just thought it was super fucked up. And then how she just like says that his dad has autism out of nowhere. But even then, that to me felt like a really just like forced. The whole scene of him getting into the fist fight felt so forced, like something to make it not such a perfect 2 weeks, because like then the guy comes out of nowhere and is like picking a fight with him, but like not even like fully like actually picking a fight. He's just so awkward. Like the performance of it is so awkward. He's just like, dude, like leave me alone. He's like, oh come on. It's just so forced. I feel like the real story here is Channing Tatum and his dad. Even the opening letter is about the dad. Was there any part of this movie that got you emotional?
There was. I thought something more was going to happen, and I'm so glad it didn't. It was the car scene with the father, when the father was freaking out and they kept driving and they kept I was like, you stop at the first minute he asks you to stop. I was so upset with them, because for a second when he was going towards the door, I really got scared. I was like, no, 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 like literally out loud, because I really got scared that he was going to be able to get out and like jump, and that would be how he hurt himself or died or that sort of thing. I know that his son isn't trained properly or anything like that, but like he wasn't responding the right way to his father freaking out there.
Can we just talk about the father for a moment? The character I loved in this whole movie was the father, and even then, it wasn't because he was in the movie the longest. It was because he was the only one with depth. He was a single dad who raised his son on his own. He has autism that no one diagnosed. He's loving, but he doesn't know how to show that love. His subtext of like already being dressed in the suit when his son came, saying that he wanted to go to the dinner. He wants to do all these things that are quote unquote normal, but he can't. And like his son pulling away from him, and just all these like the fact that like he cooks dinner for his son every single night. The fact that he would like cook extra for her, even though that's not his routine. He just knew instinctively, like, oh, I'm gonna start. She's in the family now. All these beautiful things with the fucking coin, like how the coins came into play. He's the most developed character in the entire movie. He has so much depth. And in that scene, I was mad at both of them. Obviously, I agree. Pull over the second the man says to pull over. But what was really shocking to me is that little Miss Sunshine over here handled it so poorly. And then she goes, first of all, she was driving and she didn't pull over. She was like confused, like, why are you acting this way? He's literally crying in the backseat saying, please pull over. He's never done anything like this ever. He's trying. And then she goes, well, at least he tried. No one went to go comfort the dad. No one went to like actually care for him. She went to John.
I was like, I would sit down with him in the grass and just like, I wouldn't be like, oh, we're gonna wait in the car while you figure it out. Like, my God, like what? When they left him to go to that dinner, I was so upset. That's when I thought, I was like, okay, he didn't die in the car, because I was like, this man's death is gonna be a thing. So I was like, when he didn't like jump out of the car and hurt himself, I was like, he's gonna like die in the house while you guys are at dinner. So like something's going to happen while you just go off. Like you can't just sit and eat with him first and then go to the dinner a little bit later. Like stay for an extra half hour and then go late. Like just, I understand not wanting to miss her family's dinner at all, but like to just completely abandon him for like your girlfriend's family
that you've known for 2 weeks. The only part that really broke me in the whole film was like any part with the dad was the only thing that actually made me emotional. But the only part that really did break me in the whole film was like when the dad is in the hospital and John comes with the letter, and the dad takes it, and he's like opening it, and he's trying so hard to read it, and his hands were like this because of the stroke, but he was so delicate, and he was like, John kept saying over and over again, like, you don't have to read it, don't read it, don't read it, and the dad was just like, I want to read this letter. You know what I mean? Like, oh my god, that broke me. Not even John reading the fucking letter broke me. Just the dad, like, trying so hard, because I know the dad is thinking, like, I don't know, at least for me, I was like, I have to read this letter before I die. But that poor man. And then no one was at that man's funeral. To the point where the priest was like, oh, we have another service coming in. Can you, that was sad, man. I would never wish that on my own worst enemy, and that man was so nice.
Yeah, they really did him dirty with that, and with the whole him being in the hallway for his bed. I didn't understand exactly what that was. And John was like, why is he out here? But then it's like not addressed, or like, you know what I mean? He has to move on, obviously, because he has limited time. But I'm just like, why are we here? Is this a logistical reason that like you couldn't get a hospital? Like, I didn't really, I feel like that it made that moment harder for me to comprehend, because I was so confused by that location at first. I know that that's kind of the point, is that you don't get to fully earn that moment and that earn that ending. And I like the way they did that. They did it well, but I feel like they should have had a better way of giving a reason why.
I vibe with you 100%, because like I kept trying to justify it in my head, because like I was thinking about all the times that I've been in the hospital for like my relatives and they were passing away or something like that. And like that does happen at times where like they need to give the room to someone who needs it more. But even like when my grandfather was passing away, like he had his own room, I just felt like it was such a forced way of like degrading the father, of like in his last moments, they're giving his room to someone else that might need it more. And so he has to stay outside in this like hallway. I just felt like it was so forced. And I vibe with you 100%, because I was just like, at least make it like, at least have a doctor come over and explain or something, or you know what I mean? Because like technically speaking, like it's not like that's like a common thing in every single person that's ever goes to the hospital. Like, oh yeah, as you die, we bring you out into the hallway.
So one last thing about the dad, I guess.
Yes.
I did not like that they would come back to the house and make out there with the dad there. That even if the dad didn't have any issues, I still think that's highly disrespectful and really inappropriate, the way in which it was done, where it's like during the day when he's awake and they're super loud and their door is open. Like, I was like very confused. He was clearly very uncomfortable, and I was like, this is so selfish.
He was so uncomfortable the entire time. Like he's in his room and he hears everything. It's not like they're doing anything inappropriate, but like they basically are. I would never bring a guy home into my bedroom and like make out loudly and make my mother uncomfortable.
I want to move on to another part. It kind of goes hand in hand with the whole, that stupid fight that I agree felt very forced. It was really weird, and I almost thought that was going to be used as like a lame excuse as to why they're going to be fighting as he leaves, but luckily they like fixed it and resolved it, and I was like, oh, is this to show me they can overcome anything? Because it doesn't show me that. But that moment when he goes to find Savannah and Tim is there, and he's like, oh, you want to write her a note? And he just pulls paper out of the trash can and hands it to him to write, like, was there no other way for this man to get paper? Then it had to be like, this makes sense because we're outside. I can't invite you indoors to write on regular paper. But here, look, I found some in the I literally wrote in my notes, I literally wrote a note from the trash. I was like, I don't understand why we are romanticizing this. You literally, I feel like you pulling paper out of a trash can to give this man shows what you think of him so much right now. They're just like, here you go.
What's funny about the fact that that was in your notes, A, I didn't see it. B, what's funny is that we did not enjoy this movie. If we are literally, like, you know how, like, they always say, like, there's always the statement when you're making movies of, like, oh, if people notice this, then we didn't do our job. You know what I mean? Like, if people notice that, like, the chairs moved a little to the left in this scene, that we didn't do our job. We are literally so done with the narrative plot of this film that you were like, why is that there?
I feel like if we were in person and we were filming bits, I'd be filming that bit right now. I'm like, oh, here you go. Like, here's some trash. Like, I'm
If
just
you
like,
handed me trash, I'd be like, the fuck is wrong with you, police? Like the actual what?
right? I'm like, they're outside a house. First of all, you wouldn't have that kind of trash can outside your house. Because I was like, I don't understand. They're trying to find a way where he can give a note, and he doesn't happen to have brought one with him. Because that's not an option. And it's like, and I was like, I don't understand why Tim doesn't invite him inside the house. Or why don't we have Tim outside, like, writing or drawing, and he happens to have paper in, like, why is the only way that Tim can have paper outside that it's in a trash can that he's clearly not emptying outside, because that's not how trash works. But anyway, I thought that was really ridiculous, and I was like, oh, she saved the note literally from the trash, but okay.
What is this happening here? Why is no? But I also agree. I had to constantly keep reminding myself, like, how 2020 is it that when her purse falls into the ocean, she's like, oh no! I was like, her cell phone isn't there. Like, and then I realized what year it is. It's like 2000, and I'm like, oh no, it's not.
That little moment at first, I think that's one of the few moments I liked, was him jumping in to get her purse for her.
Me too. I was wondering what you thought about this meet cute, because I remembered how much you disliked in the meet cute in the Notebook, how he's like aggressively saying like, say yes, say yes, yes. In this one, John keeps like politely saying, no thank you, like, no, here you go. And she's the one that's like, oh come on, like come back to our house, like let me give you a beer, let's like spend time together. But John is the one that's like, oh no. And I was thinking about you in that moment, and I was like, I wonder if Elise would like this. Yeah, for me, my favorite part of this whole movie is the meet cute. And I can't blame anyone. You know what I mean? Making movies are very hard. And I think the point of what me and Belize are trying to get at is like, we're just having fun and just like poking fun at this movie. It is what it is, you know. I do think they tried shoehorning like so much into the narrative. And obviously because he is the main protagonist, we spend time with him rather than her. But I felt like all of our questions lied with her, which I guess is the whole point of the book. You know what I mean? It's like he doesn't know why she ends up breaking up with him. He's over at war. You know what I mean? He doesn't know what's going on in her life.
Well, now I feel bad for my next note, because this was another poking fun note that I have. Again, this was not on the story, but there's another moment at the airport where they're like hugging, and it cuts to the reactions of a guy putting on his belt.
Putting his pants!
And I was like that, and then another guy at security like this, and I was like, are you just trying to show me that security is evolving now that it's 9/11? Because I don't understand otherwise why this is here. But why am I needing to see someone putting on pants? That is so uncomfortable to see a man putting on pants as he watches them, no matter what explanation there is, like, logically.
I'm so happy you said that, because I was so confused for a second. I was like, is that guy gonna touch himself? Like, is that guy gonna touch himself to them hugging? Why couldn't you cut to like some kids? You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't you cut to like a bunch of little kids or something like that? Like, oh, that's so cute. Or like, a mom, you know what I mean? Or like an older woman. Why does that have to be a guy putting his pants on? They both were men. They cut to two men. And I get it. It was like the men thinking like, I kind of felt like it was like the men wishing they were John. Like, wishing that they had someone like this beautiful blonde woman, like jumping on them. Like, wow, you know what I mean? And my favorite line in the whole movie, and I remember it from when I was a little kid, which I think is so freaking funny, that like the one line I remember then is the one line I remembered now. And it's when they're in the war and they run into that guy who's speaking in Turkish, and John goes like, what's he saying? And the guy's like, how the hell should I know? He's like, oh, you don't, like, basically insulting his language abilities. He's like, man, I speak Farsi, like all these different like languages. He's like, what the hell do you know? Like, I don't know one language in the middle of a war zone, and all of a sudden I'm an idiot. You can barely speak English.
I know what? I was like, let's get a close up on this man. Like, this is amazing.
I know it's fucked up to say, but the only person I cared about was the dad. That's the only person I cared about. I thought Tim was a pedophile, even though she is legal. I don't know. Like, it'd be weird if someone who I've known since childhood with a child and I got married. You know what I'm trying to say? That is weird.
If he knows her when she's born, like, right? That's the idea. He saw her grow up. He was maybe he's a teen when she's born, okay? So maybe it's 10 years age difference. But that means at some point he was 20 and she was 10. So if there was some point where he was 20 and she was 10, that's a little too much. I don't know. That's a little too crazy for me. I know that there are some people with age like 10 years age difference. I think over 10 is a lot.
But like, here's the thing. I don't give a fuck about your age difference. If you, Belize, came to me and were like, Sam, I am in love. This person is 15 years older than me. I'd be like, okay, Belize, I'm gonna meet him. But if you were like, Sam, I am in love. This person held me in the crib. And now he holds me in bed at night. I'd be like, Belize, we need to talk.
So this ending, they shot 2 endings for this. There's an alternate ending in existence. In the one that I saw on Amazon, which was very quick and brief. It's just she's at a coffee shop and he sees her and they hug. And she's writing as we listen to the letter she wrote. In the alternate ending, it's actually that they just don't see each other. We don't see a reconciliation there. It's kind of just she writes a final letter and we don't see if they meet up again or anything like that. Which I think that one is apparently more in line with what the book had. I don't think they're supposed to end up together. It's supposed to be this sad situation if they just don't. So I from what I read online, the producers or the company that made this had a problem with having such a sad ending. They were concerned that it wouldn't work. So that's why they changed it to this one. But it's still done so half-heartedly that I just not that the alternate ending that was filmed is much better, but that one made more sense to me as to why it's they just don't see each other again. But I'm these of the endings I've seen for Nicholas Sparks movies, this one's really weird because Nicholas Sparks movies, the endings usually get me and they're in depth and full, and this one was just kind of a hug.
No, I'm 100% with you. Nicholas Sparks has written so many books and he's written so many love stories that really gut the soul. And then again, I haven't read the book. I understand the book ending because after being with those people in their minds for so many pages, I think then just not seeing each other again would be guttural and really gut-wrenching and all that. But for the movie, I understand why they would make it the hug, because it doesn't mean they're going to end up together, but it was almost closure for the audience. You know what I mean? Of at least they're saying goodbye in a way. You know what I mean? At least they get an active point of bye, Because I feel if that was the movie where they just never see each other again, I feel at least me, I'd be the fuck? What did I just spend the last 2 hours watching? If you know what I mean? They're just never gonna speak ever again. I would feel there was no closure. Whereas in life, there is no closure. Life doesn't bring you closure. You know what I mean?
Really quick, it's interesting that you see that as a goodbye. I saw that as a hello. That they were gonna get back together.
I love watching movies with you and dissecting them every week because you and I read scenes so differently and it's incredible. I love it. This is literally when they do that random people, they bring them into a room and they say, watch this movie, what do you think? Answer this questionnaire. This is why. Okay, so you remember how I asked you once, have you ever seen the movie Once?
Yeah, I remember you asking, yeah.
I lost my shit yesterday. I lost my shit when I was watching this movie. The song they're listening to when they make love for the first time is from Once.
Why?
I don't know. I was so confused. I was it'd be bringing in a Grease song.
But that's so weird. Honestly, that scene bored me, so I don't even remember the song. I was just yep, they have to, because now that you've talked about slut shaming, you have to have sex. That's I was so annoyed also with that scene where they have that conversation and then they start making out in the rain. She climbs on top of him and I was literally you're awfully knowledgeable for someone who has no sexual experience.
Love you so deeply, because I felt the same way when they were screaming in his house with his dad present. I was just can we move on to the question of what would we have done differently?
I would have liked to see a bit more of her side during everything, and then besides that, I would have had, if they are to meet up or anything, I would have wanted to see her also visit at least the grave of the dad or something there, because I feel it's really weird that she doesn't show up at the funeral, and I get that she doesn't know, but I really would have liked to see that she truly cared about this man.
I think in this regard, we agree. I feel like usually whenever this question arises, I'm always the one that's like, oh, but that's not their character, Belize. Like, they wouldn't do that, Belize. No, in this regard, I agree with everything you just said because I feel like her character to me is the most inconsistent. I think it would have strengthened the tension between them if like she became more consistent with herself. Like if she was like, no, I'm not going to disrespect your father's house and be so like aggressively loud and like, let's not do this here. Tension would have been built. You know what I mean? With the car, I would have made her like sit with the dad and be like, what the fuck is wrong with you, to John? You know what I mean? Like, it's your dad. Because I feel like that would make him kind of snap out of it more and like be there more for the father. Like she should be there for the dad and not him. I would have wanted more of her POV. I would have wanted one scene, just one scene where like she's crying or some bullshit over the fact that Tim is sick. And then they kiss, you know what I mean? Like something that tells us as an audience that like there was a little bit of something there too. Like, what would you rank it? 1 to 10.
It's just so hard too because I think I would rank it differently if it was a standalone movie, but because I know what Nicholas Sparks movies are capable of, I almost want to rank it lower because of that. I'd say a 4.
I'd give it like a 5. Channing Tatum was really attractive. And like Amanda Seyfried is really attractive. And I really do love the dad. The dad character is good. And I like the initial concept.
And I think that's why if it was the same level as it is in the beginning throughout, I would give it like a 6. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, it's just the middle loses you.
Last night when I was speaking with Belize, Belize said, should we watch something else? And I was like, no, we have to watch the movie. We have to talk about this movie. Because think about it. Every week we sit there and we're like, I wouldn't change a thing. Great movie. I think the closest we got was I Know You Did Last Summer. So I think it's important for us to also watch movies that we necessarily don't like because we are dissecting the genre. Next week, The Last Song. Very excited. I really like this movie. So if you disagree with us, if you feel any differently, if you would rank them Dear John higher and we're just being super aggressive, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this film as a whole? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Vibe with us in the comments. Like always, thank you for coming. We are currently in our Nicholas Sparks month. N is for Nicholas Sparks. And next week, we will continue the journey through music. Like always, my name is Sam.
I'm Belize, and this is Heartbreaker Films.
See you next week.